Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is my guy, Mario Puig. This is the free agent reactions edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. This is always one of my favorite episodes every single year. The new league year is technically not even 24 hours old, but by golly, at noon on Monday, things started to get crazy with the legal tampering period opening up. Things got crazier. I think it was Tuesday night with the Max Crosby saga that has kind of continued on. Looks like he's going to be back with the Raiders. Who knew? So I guess I want to start there. It'd just be the dang elephant in the room if we didn't, Mario. And then we're going to talk about best ball. We're going to talk about ADP shifts because of free agency, all that good stuff. This episode totally loaded, folks, but let's hear it, man. What the heck?
So on the Crosby thing specifically, I doubt we'll ever know for certain. I think you have to be a little bit skeptical of the people who say they know certain things or have reason to know certain things. Like I saw Sam Monson giving these vague but emphatic assertions that I know this and this and this, and yet if you read what he said, it was self-contradictory on its face. He was saying, look, it is crazy to say that the Ravens might have changed their mind because of being surprised that they lost Linderbaum or whatever else. But I also don't think they would have gone back on the trade if Trey Hendrickson weren't available. So he's saying very verbatim, like they wouldn't have gone back on the Crosby trade if they didn't have Hendrickson to choose as a preferable option, which is the same thing as, well, whatever, Sam, you'll figure it. No, you won't. You won't figure it out ever. But most people will just read that and see like, oh yeah, that even by this person's own reasoning of trying to defend Eric DaCosta, they're admitting the crime in the defense. It's insane to be that bad at writing and thinking. But I don't think we can know anything in particular all that much. It does read suspiciously.
Sure.
At the very least, I don't think this is how NFL trade protocols usually work. Even if you sort of are generous enough to assume DaCosta definitely wasn't up to any shenanigans, it still objectively was sort of handled the wrong way. And sure. It's I guess, given that, it's hard to shake, the suspicion. It's hard to be especially generous with DaCosta for that fact alone. And I don't know, it looks weird, and it might surprise you, John. I actually have the opinion that it's okay if DaCosta did that. I think the league is fundamentally underhanded. I think it's fundamentally a group of liars, basically, who owns any given sports league. And if the rules let you get away with something, you should generally try to get away with it, because no one else is going to give you the same generosity. If they have a chance to get one over on you, they don't care if it's ethical. They care if they'll get in trouble for it. So if DaCosta has that plausible deniability lined up, and the Raiders really, and the league really doesn't have anything on him as far as this is a rule you violated knowingly, the Ravens might kind of get out of it better than they would have if they stuck with the trade. I certainly didn't like the trade that much with how much the offensive line needs rebuilding in Baltimore, especially even before the Linderbaum departure. I just feel like teams that trade 2 first-round picks for stars like Crosby earn the privilege to do it by building their team well enough in the first place that they have surplus resources to splurge that way. I saw DaCosta making a 2 first-round pick trade for Crosby more as just trying to save his job by by mortgaging the future of the team. Mm-hmm. So I actually, in a weird way, think it just kind of reflects better on DaCosta that if he did try to get out of it some underhanded way, good for him, I guess, is how I feel.
Yeah, I think that this is, and anyone that's listening to this show, like, that kind of knows my background as a lifelong Ravens guy. So I haven't enjoyed being on the internet this week. It's been tough out there. I know everyone's very sad about that, but I think that the way that things went down, is such that if you have any sort of axe to grind with the Ravens, like this was Christmas for you. Like you had open season to just rag on them.
I'm not a Ravens fan, but I am a Lamar and Derrick Henry fan, and I'm sick of things getting in the way. So that's all my interest in. I'm like, DaCosta, if you hurt my much larger sons, I'm going to let them beat you up because I can't.
Yeah, I mean it's Friday happens and it's like, oh man, 2 first rounders is a lot, and we were talking about it, not on air, where 2 first rounders for the way that this roster was set up, it felt rich. I think that the entire interior of the offensive line, again, irrespective of the Linderbaum signing with Vegas, is like, man, they were a sieve on at either guard spot and tackle. Very, very like suspect. Ronnie Stanley pretty far up there in his career, and Rosengarten kind of taking a step back last year, maybe not actually being as good as people thought in 2024. And then there was this sort of mass exodus. I don't know if there was another team that lost as many guys in free agency as the Ravens did on Monday. Almost like a quarter or not almost a quarter, almost a fifth of the active roster went somewhere else. Both the tight ends, Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler. Keaton Mitchell get signed by the Chargers yesterday. Yeah, like it just like a guy like him who's been sort of emblematic of the Ravens for almost a decade now. He's gone. It's just like very whiplashy, and then they pull back on the trade, and you wonder exactly what led to that. Was it a failed physical, or was it something where it's like you can say that the guy failed the physical and get out of a trade that you are technically, like you said, within your rights to get out of, because, hey, brother, it's the legal tampering period. The league year hasn't actually started yet, so the ink's not dry.
Yeah, if the escape hatch is there, take it. Don't trap yourself on a sinking ship out of some misguided moral demonstration. Like the league is immoral. No, you would be the only moral actor if you were enough of a sucker to agree to that.
And again, people were sort of emptying other complaints about the Ravens that they'd been sitting on. I saw a Bills fan this morning being like, if this surprised you, just let me remind you about how the Ravens traded Jair Alexander to the Eagles and he retired shortly thereafter. It's like, that's your that's your material you're going with.
The Ravens aren't even trying to win. They're just trying to put little they're just going around slashing tires of other scouts on other teams. That they're just trying to just make people make trades for players that retire right away, for sure. I don't understand NFL fan fighting. Like, everybody, fan fights throughout history on the internet have always been stupid, but it's getting way worse on Twitter because we're adding like a schizoid feral element that never existed before. It's like, before you just had stupid homers, and now the stupid homers have mental illness and are seeing things.
Yeah, and they're armed with like too much information than their brain can handle. So there's like this crazy noxious mix of like their own reactionary emotions plus just a Frankenstein together type of opinion that they form from like the other stuff that they see from other angry people on the internet, and it creates just this beautiful
crazy
scene.
Person game of telephone that wraps around itself into a rat king that we call modern internet life.
Yeah, this is the pinnacle that we've been building for thousands of years to make it to this point where we can say that trading a guy who was about to retire, that was the most.
That's how much they hate Josh Allen.
Yeah, that is. They're trying to get Joshy boy.
They're all about undermining the Bills via trading Jair Alexander to the Eagles.
Just So that one, I haven't laughed a lot about all of this, but that one got me pretty good. But obviously, there's been a ton of other stuff that's gone down this week in free agency, and I want to discuss it with you within the context of the great DraftKings best ball sphere. So we got a message from our friends over at DK, and then we're going to talk about a draft that I rocked out in. I actually do feel pretty good about this one on Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to get into that and talk about some of the big free agent movement. I've been manually keeping track of some of these ADP shifts. We're going to talk about that. But first, here's a message from DraftKings.
It's the offseason, but on DraftKings, football never sleeps. Early Bird Best Ball is back. Get a head start on the season and compete for a share of $1 million in total prizes before the rest of the field even jumps in. Are you new to Best Ball? It's the easiest way to get in on the action without the weekly grind. Draft once, and that's it. Each week, your top scores automatically count. No roster moves, no weekly management. Just build your squad and let it ride all season long. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and draft your early bird best ball lineup for a shot at a share of $1 million in prizes. Drafts stay open until the season kicks off, so now's the time to jump in. You draft it, we crown it, so sign up now using the link in the description below to take your shot at a share of $1 million in prizes on DraftKings Early Bird Best Ball Contest. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most states. Restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com. Sponsored by DraftKings.
Look at that. We're back. All right. Let's get into it. I'm going to share the draft board from yesterday's exercise. Let's see if I can get us a little bit more zoomed in. There we go. All right.
Is this in a certain tournament, John?
This was one of their training camp ones. I think this was the $10 training camp that they had cooking. They still have a bunch of different various price points. They've got ones for the big dogs that are like $333. They've got ones for the little chihuahuas out there that are like $1, and they've got ones for like your standard. It's frozen. Awesome. No, are we back?
We had a bit of a hiccup. No, I guess it's still hiccuping.
Okay. Has the baby been burped yet? Is it done hiccuping?
I'm hearing you now, John. Are you hearing me? I love the team, John. Say thank you if you.
I got you.
If you can hear. Okay.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Oh, man, I love the future. Anyway, let's get started. Let's talk about Kenneth Walker. Let's talk about Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne. Kenneth Walker previously had been going in the middle of the third round. Now he is a mid-second round type of guy. And Travis Etienne, largely unchanged. I was surprised by that. I was surprised to be able to get Travis Etienne at the end of the third round. He had kind of been there previously, so really no movement, at least from this particular draft room, when it came to Etienne's stock, despite him, moving on over to New Orleans, which, team probably not as good as Jacksonville, but I think his role, I think he's set up to be, at least as good, if not better than he was a year ago. So I felt happy to get him with the 36th pick. But those two guys leading us off here when it comes to the big fantasy free agents.
Right. I definitely understand the reasoning, the stated logic of Kenneth Walker being valued at his new ADP. I guess I'm a little surprised that it jumped that much for the Chiefs. It seems like it's the Chiefs part that got that extra bit of juice behind the Walker ADP, because I can't remember where it was the other day that I drafted him. It was, I want to say, at least the third. It was probably the third. Yet we're looking at a solid 12 spots ADP jump, when the whole time we kind of assumed, or I thought we were all assuming, that Walker would step into a 3-down role somewhere. I guess the Giants' worst case scenario might have been in people's minds. The Giants have been priced out for some amount of hours before the Chiefs eventually got to Walker. It's almost looking, though, like people are giving the Chiefs bonus of 4 years ago, of being a Chiefs running back 4 years ago. And I'll draft Walker. I think it's clearly an upgrade over Seattle. I think Walker's good, but I don't think he's great. And I do think a lot of people in influential sports media, fantasy media have been pushing the idea that Walker is great. And I think they're kind of reiterating their priors from last year in the ADP now, kind of like sort of feeling like there's a backlog to be seized. Like, oh, my rightful production from Kenneth Walker that was seized from me by the scoundrel Zach Charbonnet. I'm going to get it all back in 2026 at once. And I doubt it. I think Walker's a good player, but if you took a poll of the average fantasy football media consumer right now, I would imagine by at least by a 6-4 kind of thing, most of them would say Kenneth Walker is better than Travis Etienne. I don't think he is. I think it's objectively, you can't really make the case. If you look at their career NFL numbers, it's kind of funny. They're almost exactly the same. It's something like 4.8 yards per touch, the same rushing yardage average, I should say, same rushing touchdown kind of stuff. The difference to me is that Travis Etienne had to play 2 of those years under Press Taylor and one of them under Urban Meyer, coming back from a broken foot injury, Liz Frank, I guess I should say. So I think Etienne is a player who has put up the numbers he has in unfavorable conditions for the vast majority of his career. And even last year, good as it was for fantasy, I think he was a little bit miscast due to the shortage of personnel options that the Jaguars had in the run game. Like specifically, they're putting a lot of power stuff on Etienne, and that's not really who he is. He's a speed guy. I'm actually kind of curious to see if he'll look a little bit faster in a dome playing on the grass all this time. Not that he didn't look fast, but I do think Etienne is one of those guys he's just got a little bit more juice than you ever think. And I think as much as it's a downgrade going from Jacksonville to the Saints, it might not be that much of one. The Saints seem to be building a little something there. I think Kellen Moore, he kind of earned a benefit of the doubt, at least after his first year. And that still is a pretty crap division. Like, I assume the Panthers' run defense isn't going to be great next year. It might be okay, but there could have been some tough defenses in the AFC South. Like the Titans' run defense was good last year, so it's not like it was easy schedule. As much as it's in any case, as much as it's a little bit of a downgrade to ETN, perhaps, I think what you saw with him falling to you and kind of fitting nicely on your roster is that he doesn't fall to the next tier. It's not enough of a downgrade to make it a tier drop, TIER drop for Travis Etienne. So maybe we lower our projection, but in effect, we don't really change our ranking of him that much.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summation. I think to bring it back around on Walker now I think you have so many like viable second round running backs, and it's going to be like interesting to see like how you weight out or like measure out how much exposure to which one is the right particular combination, because it right now, because it's so new, it feels weird to draft Kenneth Walker over Derrick Henry, or it feels weird to draft him over Saquon Barkley and Chase Brown. But like that seems to be, the sort of new reality of the situation. I think Walker's a guy that, he's shown that he can take on 250 or so carries at this level. As a workhorse his last year at Michigan State. And I think the Chiefs, their offensive line is solid. I think especially if the two guys on the left side are able to kind of take bigger steps forward this year in year 2 and 3, I think it is for their left tackle and their left guard respectively. You still got Creed Humphrey. Like I don't know. There's a lot to like there. They're probably gonna have to lean on the run game a little bit more with Mahomes being gimpy, and like they were so bad at running the football last year. Like they had I'll circle back to this, but like they had like 100-yard rusher last year, and like I think they had as many 20-yard runs from their running backs as they did their quarterback and their receivers. That was the same number, and I think it was one apiece, if I remember right. So it was embarrassingly bad and embarrassingly like ineffective the way that they were able to run the ball last year. So Walker changes that, I think, in a pretty significant way. So like I knew it was going to be crazy, and I knew it would take like some adjusting of your eyes to see Walker in the new spot, but like I don't like fully object to
I
the
don't at all
to the
either.
new ADP. Now,
More
something
specifically, John, I think that's just a range of the running back ADP, especially if you're drafting with volume. In this range of the DraftKings ADP at running back, you'll probably want to just kind of diversify, in my opinion. I think the reason why it's hard to make rankings and feel strong about any of it is just the objective case for these 6 or so guys in a row is pretty similar, and the right answer isn't necessarily about who's reasoning the best as much as things we can't control, like which running back stays healthiest and or which running back surrounding offense, be it the line or the passing game or whatever, stays healthy.
Bingo. So I like all these guys, especially, I like them all where they're going. I was happy to get Etienne at the start of the second round. I am curious though. I think there's some downstream effects going on with the two guys that we've talked about, with Etienne and with Kenneth Walker, and that's because our mock draft friends out there, it's like, well, I'm just going to put Jeremiah Love either in New Orleans or Kansas City. Now you can't do that. So
Washington.
So let me finish.
I mean, it might be.
It might. But all of a sudden, I feel like whereas those were two like pretty attractive spots if Jeremiah Love were to get drafted by either of those teams, now those are off the table, and those other options are what, Tennessee or Washington, like you said. I don't know if that'd be a great pick for Washington, or all of a sudden we don't have that golden goose top 10 pick at running back that we all kind of assumed that we had. But by extension of that, you probably have a better team, a more functional team drafting Jeremiah Love that might ultimately get more out of him. So what do you make of like those two landing spots being off the board for Jeremiah Love, and what might it do to his ADP here for this next little bit before the draft?
Yeah, I guess given how much the Chiefs are spending on Walker and how they need to replace both of their starting corners now, I guess they probably won't be so indulgent at running back as to also take Love. I only mention that because I don't personally think Love is a workhorse in the NFL. I think he's like a 12, 14 carry running back who does big damage and is a really good pass catcher. So to me, as a person who is totally okay with the idea of making a aggressively run heavy offense, I'd like, if I were the Chiefs, to have Walker and Love on one team, because then we're just killing you all day. We're just running you over. There's nothing you can do about it all day. That said, it's unlikely. And if you cross off those teams, or more, I guess I should back up a little. If you go past Washington at 7, I don't really know where the fall ends. And there's trade up scenarios that you have to worry about there, which the one downside to the falling down the order and landing on a better team bit is it also raises the likelihood, in my opinion, that he lands in a split workload. Is the nightmare scenario of Adrian Peterson landed on the Vikings when they had Chester Taylor, who was like a 1,200 yard runner the year before. Wacky stuff like that can happen. And if something weird like I'm not trying to like terrify anybody, but it wouldn't shock me that much if like the Eagles ended up with Jeremiah Love, just because it's like, it seems like a Howie thing to me to sort of swoop in when people are getting lazy, when the rest of the league is getting a little lazy or something, and they think like, oh, we don't have to worry about the Eagles. It's like that seems like a Howie bat signal moment to me.
Sure.
So yeah, it's I don't want to draft Love at his ADP right now, I guess is what I'm going with. And I didn't really want to draft him at his ADP before these signings, but I conceded, maybe like 10% exposure. If you're drafting 10 teams, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm one of them. Now I'm like, maybe we should make it more like 1 out of 12 or something. Or better yet, I'm not going to buy Jeremiah Love unless he falls past ADP. If he falls past ADP, maybe we take a shot.
Okay. And, a guy like that's so clearly like going to be the first player at his position taken, like, I have a hard time like seeing like those types of scenarios where he's like falling way past ADP. But I do feel like if posed with it, I mean, again, like you said, you want the exposure, but in a vacuum right now, I probably like all of Walker, Brown, Barkley, and Henry probably as much as I do Jeremiah Love. I think
I would
that's
take
where I
them
land
over
with it.
him. And John, real quick, Hampton and Etienne, that's a big tier drop off for me, those guys. So like ideally, if I'm taking a second round running back, it'd be one of those two. I know that's not often an option, but I do think as good as Brown, Barkley, Henry, Love, Walker all are, there's a difference of at least one magnitude, I think, because I feel like Hampton and Achane can be running back one if they're lucky enough, and if other players are unlucky enough.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, but Hampton's in for a monster year. The offensive line literally can't be worse. And Achan, we know what he is. And all of a sudden, and I drafted accordingly a little bit of the opinion that maybe the Dolphins have some semblance of a pulse this year. So Achan, his stock stays afloat. And I also drafted Justin Jefferson, I think, for the first time this year with that thinking as well. I'm kind of under the assumption that
he just needs
Kyler
Nick
Murray's
Mullins.
a Viking.
Oh yeah, Kyler should work.
Kyler will do it. I'd prefer Nick Mullins, of course, but alas, let's see. We don't have to go too much further into it, but
Well, the recent free agent stuff at running back.
Yes, let's go ahead and get into that. But I'll close out this segment by saying again, big shout out to DraftKings. Go check out their early bird best ball contests that are out there. But we're going to continue to kind of break down the free agent signings through the lens of best ball, and specifically through the lens of this DraftKings draft from yesterday. So let's see Bashal Tutin, I think, is now like the lightning rod, and boy, that tees you up nicely, Mario, because there was another signing in Jacksonville on Wednesday afternoon that perhaps moves the needle.
Right. So this is going to be a whole thing now. I'm sure many of you are already aware. I've gone to previous war over this matter for years, and that's just the Chris Rodriguez point, mind you. The battle of the Jacksonville backfield last year is a separate one. I've been that Japanese soldier about
Hiro Noda.
Yeah, I've been doing that for Chris Rodriguez the whole time. But there was that separate front last year specifically pertaining to the Jacksonville backfield where fan fiction was at an all-time high. You could not to say that I foresaw the Bigsby trade, especially. I assumed Bigsby would hang around and kind of, I don't know, do something. I just didn't assume much. Bashal Tutin, I figured he's really fast. He runs hard. He's no coward. It's not like he's a speed back in the sense that like he'll be soft like Jaden Blue or something. Tutin has wheels and motor and strength to go with it. So he has some things going for him. I figured, you can use him like whatever the Ravens used Keaton Mitchell when they were using Keaton Mitchell correctly, something like that. But despite those two players and whatever they could offer, I thought pretty clearly Travis Etienne is the obvious starter for this team. And what are we talking about? This is stupid. And the reason the discussion was so stupid was because people didn't want to talk about material details. They wanted to talk about proprietary metrics. Every debate now has to be framed through proprietary metrics of somebody or another's, where it's, well, this missed tackles forced, or this elusiveness, real, true elusiveness grade, not fake. These grades. This is the only thing you can argue about. This is reality. This is material reality now. Nothing else is real. And I didn't agree. I was like, I just think Travis Etienne's better because he always runs for more yards and stuff. Whatever. So I guess we'll have to call it a draw, that one. But we're back this year to do the same song and dance. Only this time, the people who were writing off Etienne last year are emboldened because Etienne is gone. And they're like, especially the Bashal Tutin contingent, of course, like their fan fiction. The fan fiction writing from those people was held onto by those same people despite Travis Etienne starting over their boy last year and clearly being the better player, it didn't deter the fan fiction. You know, the fan fiction is reality now. It takes the place of reality. So Etienne having a big season at Teuton's expense never happened to these people. That's made up. What's real is the fan fiction, the prophecy that Bashal Teuton is going to be this guy that we knew he was going to be last year and he should have been, but now definitely it's going to happen. And I don't think those people who are committed to their fan fiction priors are willing to listen to anything. I don't think they have the ability to engage reality that way anymore. So they're kind of trapped in this made up world of their own construction. And they're unable to, for instance, look at something, listen to something, consider something as tangible as Liam Cohen speaking on John. What was it? That old former Washington beat writer, John Keim, is that his name? I think it was a radio show with him. I don't know if this was when Liam Cohen was still with Kentucky or where he would have been. I don't know what year this was, but it was when Chris Rodriguez was on the Commanders and on this podcast or whatever with Keim. Gus Logue. If you want to follow the Jaguars news, you got to keep up with Gus Logue, Logue, and John Shipley. Those are the two you want to follow. Gus Logue unearthed this clip from the Keim show where Liam Cohen's giving these very direct quotes to the effect of, "No one can tackle this guy. I got to Kentucky, and when I was watching them without pads, I didn't really see what was so special about him. And then we put on the pads, and all hell broke loose, basically." And so the one thing that the Teuton fan fiction people are saying is about the Chris Rodriguez contract is like, it's obviously fake. It's not that much of the cap space. It doesn't count in this case, even though it does in every other. And it's still not the real point to me. The point to me is Chris Rodriguez is a really good running back. You give him the football, he runs with it. He goes for a certain amount of yardage with a certain amount of reliability that other running backs, including Teuton, cannot. And hey, don't listen to me. It doesn't matter. Look at what Liam Cohen said about the guy. Liam Cohen was just like gushing about Chris Rodriguez on this podcast. And that's why I know the fan fiction contingent will not watch it.
There we have it. So right now, I mean, with Etienne moving on, Teuton probably going, I'd say this is almost 2 rounds ahead of where he had been going. I saw
someone pushing for him in the 5th round. Don't do that. Don't look. Teuton can do something. Like I said, he is fast. He'll run hard. That's why he was the short yardage guy last year. And I saw people misunderstanding this point too. They're saying the Jaguars love Bashal Teuton as a short yardage runner. There's no way Chris Rodriguez is going to take the short yardage running. They had a division of labor last year that was pragmatic. Okay, Travis Etienne was the workhorse, and in that capacity, he was probably a little bit overworked. So they didn't want to put the short yardage job on Etienne in addition to that. So they gave it to Teuton because they didn't want to put Teuton on the field for the passing downs because that's what LaQuint Allen did. This is the distribution of the labor. The distribution will dole out very differently with Etienne gone. That's a massive void, and that whole calculus is gone. And these people are like, oh, this variable is going to stay the same. I will cautiously suggest that Chris Rodriguez is a better short yardage runner than Bashal Teuton. And I will similarly suggest, yeah, Teuton's going to get more work, but it's going to be it's going to be of that Etienne share. It's not going to be the short yardage stuff. That's done. That's Rodriguez now. The question is, how much of the rest of the Etienne usage goes respectively to Teuton or to Rodriguez, or I guess LaQuint Allen, to be fair, he's not a nobody either. So I think it's going to be more or less a committee, but on a run-heavy team, and a team that I hope will score some points. So I haven't made myself really think about it, like who on the question of who am I projecting for more points between Teuton or Rodriguez. I'm kind of punting on that right now. Okay. Because if the price difference is upwards of 7 or 8 rounds, doesn't matter. Don't care about that answer anymore. I'm taking the cheaper one.
Yeah, and I think it might be bigger than that. I haven't seen what the min pick is for Rodriguez, but I got him in this draft. While while the news was breaking, basically, I got him at pick 204 at the end of the 17th round. So that would be
That'll
about
work.
12 rounds after when Tootin went. Tootin is now, if this solidifies as part of this kind of weird tier of running backs where let's lump in the 5th and 6th rounders together, I suppose, for discussion's sake. Tootin going ahead of Trevion Henderson, who goes ahead of David Montgomery, who goes ahead of Cam Scattaboo, who goes ahead of RJ Harvey, ahead of Swift, and then ahead of Ramondre Stevenson. So interesting mix. Did this group get it right as far as the order of these guys?
I guess it's justifiable, but I would put Henderson ahead of Tootin pretty easily, and certainly Montgomery ahead of Tootin. Maybe Henderson also. I haven't thought about that one enough. Scattaboo, it's like I said last time. I'm almost like afraid I'll somehow jinx him if I so much as check on the status of his recovery, because I'm just so afraid it's all bad news and everything. But if Scattaboo can play, he should probably be going in the 3rd round. And I don't know what to call that in the meantime, because I can't tell how much of him falling to you got him with the last pick in the 5th round, John. I don't know how much that is informed by the injury specifically and the ongoing concern of a free agent edition. If the free agent edition was the concern, I guess, not to jinx him on this front, but I guess we can kind of call that done with, right? Because it was Walker that they were looking at and not really anybody else. So Scattaboo, who's healthy, is a 3rd round pick to me and easily clears everybody in this round and the 4th round at running back, maybe with the exception of Breece Hall. I don't know. But yeah, I like Montgomery and Scattaboo in that range the most. I don't want to take Tootin in the 5th. Chris Rodriguez is going to get a lot of carries this year, and he's a more consistent runner than Tootin. Tootin's problem is he's like a wind-up car. He'll go really fast and he'll run fearlessly, but it's kind of like it's because he can't see where he's going or doesn't care where he's going, and he just kind of runs into stuff. It just runs into things instead of going where the open space is. Chris Rodriguez will run into stuff sometimes, but it's because he's driving a defender backward. You know, he's not creating clutter. He's cutting through it and smashing it in the middle of the field. So I think Tootin probably should probably slot in more like, I don't know, the 8th round. Like I would take Rico Dowdle over Tootin, no problem. I think Jalen Warren is probably more so the kind of area that I think Tootin is competing with personally.
Let's unpack that a little bit more. What Pittsburgh has done overall. So they bring in Rico Dowdle. They lose Kenny Gainwell. And they also traded for Michael Pittman. So a quick Pittsburgh sidebar, if you will. I mean,
Pittman's a big addition in the sense that he makes the team quite a bit better at that rep. I don't know if it'll matter much for fantasy though, because the Steelers, especially if they have Rodgers at quarterback, they probably won't aspire to throw the ball very much. But Pittman's a good culture guy to have, a very classic Steelers type. He'll fit in, I'm sure.
I like him on DraftKings too. I feel like there was
fair.
no wide receiver 2 in that team last year. You know, like I liked the idea of Calvin Austin in the last round or whatever, but you know, Pittman's a real player, and he's someone that short and intermediate stuff, like which is all that Rodgers can really access. Like I feel like his cat, like just that floor that he's going to give you on catches is going to be pretty nice. I don't know if there's going to be much in the way of explosives or touchdowns for Pittman, but catch-wise, I mean, I could see him leading the team.
He could. I just worry that figure is still going to be something like 65 catches
Fair.
for 730 yards and 4 touchdowns. Whereas if you give 45 catches to Metcalf, he can go for like 850 with it. You know, even though he's not consistent, even though he's not punctual the way Pittman is. Metcalf can cause that big damage with a small window kind of thing.
Sure.
I need both. I need Pittman to get a little cheaper, I got to say. In your draft on DraftKings, he went at the 3rd pick in the 8th round, 87th overall. there's a handful of guys who went after that I would safely prefer over Pittman, probably before the trade and certainly after, including the guy who went next, Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm not expecting that to be a great contract for Tennessee or anything, but Wandale's a good player, and they got to throw him the ball, especially now. Jacoby Myers, I will, without hesitation, take over Pittman. I can't go crazy with Pearsall given his injury history, but I got to get some amount because if Pearsall's healthy, he's good, in my opinion. So yeah, it's probably more the 10th round that I need, or the 11th or so that I need. For instance, I'd probably take Jaden Higgins in the 11th, Romeo Dobbs in the 11th, Jalen Coker in the 10th. These are all players that I would probably take over Pittman. But if Pittman falls to the late 11th, then that's probably where I'm going to get interested because I definitely would rather, maybe not definitely, but I'd probably mostly rather have Pittman than someone like Denzel Boston or something like that. But I don't know. Looking through this draft order, this draft board that you did in this DraftKings best ball draft, there's a lot that's going to shuffle in the upcoming days from here. Like, for instance, I wouldn't be shocked if Josh Downs, who went 13-8, 152 overall in this one, as people dig in more to what the absence of Pittman means in Indianapolis, I wouldn't be shocked if Downs jumps some upwards of 3 or 4 rounds from where he's at. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the ADP right now. It's one of the reasons why drafting early can make a lot of sense, even if you plan on drafting throughout the summer up to the fall, because there's just a degree of there's sort of like a dislodging of the whole orthodoxy at this point in the offseason, whereas like later in the offseason things get set more in stone and it's harder to find variation from draft to draft.
Yeah, I was tilting when Downs went. I was kicking myself because I mean, it's not that I hate the McMillan pick, but Downs I felt like was someone I probably should have taken where I took Stephon Diggs, but I took solace in some rankings that I was looking at, and I was like, all right, Diggs is he's got one more year in him, so we'll see where that ends up. But
that could work out plenty well.
It should be fine, but my main point there was I think that you were correct in identifying that Downs is someone, especially in PPR formats like DraftKings, that that ADP going to go up. So might as well start digging into that. Now, let's get some of these or a new look at the Pittsburgh backfield situation as well while we're talking Pittsburgh. So Warren and Dowdle, they went 8 picks apart. So that we've seen dynamics like this before. We see them pretty much every year in best ball, where there's some backfield that the market is like split on to the point where it's like literally it's a toss up at ADP between the two guys, and no one really knows. And to a certain extent, last year I think it was Caleb Johnson and Jaylen Warren. And I think we also had like Javonte Williams versus Jaden Blue versus Miles Sanders to a lesser extent last year. There are a couple other examples.
Those, right? That's kind of funny.
A
lot of people didn't, which is also funny.
They did, yeah. They were just like 30% Caleb Johnson, who's like
I got not even going to play this year. For pushing back on the Caleb Johnson hype. I had people like mad at me for saying like, I don't know, I just don't think I don't know if he's really Adrian Peterson, you guys. I think that might be a little bit hasty. Like, you bad person.
He's not even Jermichael Hasty, dude. Like,
oh man, yikes. What a roast.
Got him. But do we like the outlook of this backfield now with Dowdle and Warren? How do those two kind of like fit, complement each other as far as this Pittsburgh offense goes?
Yeah, Dowdle, I definitely got wrong in Dallas. I think he was pretty fortunate to have a lot of the matchups that he did in that one season in Dallas. And then last year, it's like Chuba Hubbard getting hurt specifically when they were running into that Miami run defense before they had any other stuff figured out, and they're getting up like 200 yards a game to everybody. That kind of T-ball setup won't be there for Dowdle in a general future projection. I think though he's shown if he gets a good matchup, he can do a lot of damage with it. and the Steelers are going to remain run heavy. So maybe it's not the right division, Bengals aside, but that opportunity will be there at the very least. And I guess the Pittsburgh offensive line is pretty good, right? Like
it's
probably
young.
top
It's
10.
taken steps forward. I feel like it's looking good.
Yeah, they're probably top 10 or so. So between the team's ideological commitment to running and Dowdle's own demonstrated ability, the offensive line, we have reason to believe being good, it strikes me as a really good value to get Dowdle any later than something like the 6th right now. So in this case, going in the 8th, I think that was a steal for that team. Now, as it goes relative to Jaylen Warren, it's a little more complicated than last year, in a sense, because it could be depending on what the Steelers sort of choose to do. But the Caleb Johnson part, what people thought he was going to be is going to be Dowdle this year, I think. But that's not to say that Jaylen Warren disappears for it. In fact, it could suit Warren better. And in DraftKings' PPR scoring, it could actually just be an upgrade projection-wise for Warren to take Kenny Gainwell's role from last year. Because Warren, in my opinion anyway, Warren and Gainwell were a little bit redundant. Gainwell was the pass-catching specialist in a sort of de facto way because Kenny Gainwell can't run with any amount of power between the tackles, but Jaylen Warren can. Jaylen Warren just can't do it as many times as a Najee Harris type running back could. It's like Warren's got the ability, but you'll make him burn a little fast if you make him take 20 carries between the tackles. So Warren was too worn out last year after all of his rushing specialist work that he didn't have the snaps left to do much as a pass catcher, even though he very much could. If you gave those Gainwell looks to Warren last year, I think Warren does more with it, point blank. But we might get the chance to test that hypothesis this year, because if Warren plugs into the Gainwell rule, and if Warren catches 25 more passes, 35 more passes for it than he did last year, he could come out ahead relative to 2025 in DraftKings scoring.
Yeah, and that's a pretty significant gain there if that ends up being the case. Speaking of Kenny Gainwell, our guy Meatball does want to know about him and how he fits in Tampa Bay, and of course, as it relates to one Bucky Irving, who's a very important piece of the fantasy puzzle this year as an early third round type of target.
Yeah, so I was way out on Bucky Irving last year in the second round. This year, he's I think I saw him. Was he the first pick in the fourth round in yours? Let's see.
He's a second pick of the third.
Oh, second pick of the third. Okay, so third round. That's an area that I'm interested in Irving this year, especially in DraftKings' PPR scoring, because I do think Irving can be a 60 or 70 or more, why not, catch running back with the right level of opportunity. Of course, the Gainwell edition complicates that, and it would be reasonable enough for someone to look at Irving and Warren and have a fear that Irving and Gainwell and have a fear that it'll play out the way Warren and Gainwell did last year, as in Irving getting the Warren end of the stick, which was not the preferable one truly, because you lose all that easy PPR points. I don't know how to say. I can't know what the Buccaneers think about either player, but we have recent reason to believe that the Buccaneers view Irving as a workhorse, a 3-down player who goes up to 20 carries in a given game. I think that's putting a lot on Irving. I think it's part of why he broke down last year. I don't think you should use a player like him that way. Just the same, I think Irving, if he stays healthy all year in the third round, is explosive enough, and that Buccaneers offensive line is still pretty awesome if it stays healthy anyway. In the third round, I think Irving can come through at cost, even if he's limited to something like 200 carries. So if he pushes for more like 250, then it's like a smash value, I think, if he also stays healthy with it. I guess that's the fundamental tension there. But I, for some reason, and this maybe I'm just being stupid or a hypocrite or whatever, But despite the way it played out for Jalen Warren last year, more or less because of Kenny Gainwell, I'm not worried about that happening to Irving. Maybe, though, maybe if I'm not specifically worried about it, I should factor it in more to the extent that I grade Irving as more like a 4th round pick or something. But I don't know. I think Gainwell truly is just a drawback and check down back. I think so much of his production last year in Pittsburgh was just kind of empty calorie stuff. Aaron Rodgers playing hot potato with the ball because he doesn't want to take a hit, and the defense doesn't care to let them spin their wheels doing these 5-yard checkdowns over and over while they're losing. I think that was what created a lot of the space for Gainwell to function last year, and I don't see him as anything more than just kind of your standard stock handcuff at this point. I think if people are drafting Gainwell with the assumption that he'll force an even split with Irving, I think they'll be disappointed.
It wouldn't be surprising to me if last year's ultimately stands as like Gainwell's like best season.
Meatball, as Meatball said, like I'm literally more concerned about Sean Tucker for Bucky Irving than I am Kenny Gainwell. So that's the other reason I guess that's the other thing I should maybe factor in that I'm failing to, is that I only reduced the question to what about Gainwell, when it's like, if the question were what about Tucker, I'd be like, oh right, crap, that is scary.
I mean, yeah, this time a week ago, I was like tilting. I was so like, I can't believe that the Bucs aren't bringing back Sean Tucker. Have they not thought about my best ball portfolio whatsoever? But now he'll be back, so thank God for that. So, yeah, Tucker, the goal line vulture. I love me some late round goal line vultures. Him and Ollie Gordon. Just go ahead and get those guys, and just like have a nice little touchdown floor for your worst running back on your team, and you're going to be okay. At least I think so. Another free agent running back, and we'll hit some other positions here before we run out. Obviously, there's so much to cover today, but I did want to get your thoughts on Tyler Algier going to Arizona. I feel like if he stays as an 8th round type of pick, I'm going to have a lot of Tyler Algier.
Yeah, I might too. I definitely am a believer in Algier. However, I am a little concerned about that backfield. As much as it's understandable to look at the Algier signing and sort of conclude that Trey Benson is toast, I would need medical information saying that, I'd need like team doctors saying Benson's knee is Swiss cheese, this isn't going to work. Because if it's more so people are kind of suggesting that Benson is discarded as a talent, that I don't think is true at all, because Benson is very talented. If he doesn't get hurt, he can be, a 5-tool running back. If he stays healthy, there's nothing he can't do. And Algier can do pretty much everything. I don't know if it's that he can't catch very well, or if it's just he's so good at blitz pickup that teams don't really want to deploy him as a route runner. But Algier can pick up the blitz. So as much as you're not going to project a 50-catch season for him over this fact, the Cardinals can keep Algier on the field and passing downs. So it'll be easy for Algier between the contract, his own, just standalone merit, and the fact that he can fit into the entirety of a game plan in a given week, means Algier should trend closer to 40 snaps per week than 30. But again, a healthy Benson, that's a lot of home run speed that Algier can't quite give them. And if James Conner's healthy, I mean, if James Conner is the same exact guy that he was up until his most recent injury, that's a better player than Algier. And I like Algier a lot. I think all 3 of these running backs are quite good if they're healthy. But perhaps at this point, we have reason to believe that Benson will not be healthy, and that Conner, even if he is really good, the Cardinals might reasonably be committed to giving him a lighter workload, just if only to keep him healthy or something. So in the 8th round, I do think at that price, even in PPR scoring like DraftKings, I don't think Algier can hurt you there. And in the event that Benson is out and Conner is out, you'll probably wish you had taken Algier in the 4th or something.
I think that like the offense is going to be, even though it's going to be Jacoby Brissett again, I don't think it'll be quite as much of like the clown show it was
It's going
a
to look
year
different.
ago. Like they literally just eventually just had to press eject on having any semblance of a run game. Once Connor and Benson went out, it was like, in the Amari DiMercato fumbled against the Titans and whatever. They're like, you know what? We're no more running backs ever. So that ultimately got them all fired and everything. And now they bring in a different coach and they bring in Algier. And I just think that we're not going to have Arizona throwing it, like almost 67% of the time the way that they did a season ago. I look for that to be a lot more.
They'll be run heavy this year, I think.
So I think that plays well into Algier. And I love James Conner, the player, but age, injuries piling up. I don't see him being like this massive roadblock and that could obviously break wrong for me, but for the sake of argument, I do think that Algier, the money, where he is in his career, the way that he's established himself a little bit more than like a Benson has, like I just think that there's no reason for him to not be the RB1 in Arizona. Now, could he be capped as far as what that actually means for our fantasy stuff if Connor or Benson, end up being pretty functional? Sure, but if there's a team that's running back one out there, 8th round's fine to me.
It's easy, especially for people who've only been playing fantasy in the past like 5 or 10 years. It's easy to not anticipate the fact that you could easily just kind of run the ball a lot. Like it's not fashionable nowadays, but go look, for instance, at that Giants team that beat the 18-0 Patriots. It's like they had Bradshaw, Ward, and Jacobs at the same time. Is that so? It makes plenty of sense to just say like, or the Lions, I guess, are the closest team to this otherwise present. Like Dan Campbell is very much trying to bring back that kind of era of things, and for the Cardinals to commit to a similar thing here would be all kinds of pragmatic for various reasons. Call it a quarterback who needs the help. True, good enough reason, but it's also a good enough reason in the fact that it's a strength of the teams, to have these 3 running backs is a sufficient reason to try to run the ball a lot.
There you have it. So, I mean, you can do that. And, in this day and age, like there's so much, the too high safety looks, like just go towards running it a little bit more. And they certainly have the personnel to do it. And it's like, if you want to be any semblance of serious, I know last year was a lot of fun with the Cardinals and Brissett and all that. And, I did draft Brissett here, so I do want them to still throw it. But, I think that they'll be way more justified to run the ball this year than say, by the time that like November, December rolled around last year. Let's grab some quarterback development. So we're making the assumption that Kyler is going to Minnesota. We'll see how that all plays out. What did you make of it? Felt fairly telegraphed, but what did you think about Malik Willis getting the bag to go to Miami?
It was a little bit less money than what was projected, which I guess is probably good for everybody. Willis doesn't need any more unreasonable expectations, and you can imagine it turning badly quickly if it's this guy costs $30 million and he's 2-6 right now or whatever. You got to prepare for that kind of season for the Dolphins, but man, I sure hope it works. I think Malik Willis has been given a pretty unfair deal in the NFL so far. I think the way the Titans just straight up yanked him out to clear the field for Will Levis of all people is just absurd, because I'm sorry, Malik Willis was always better than Will Levis. And yet Willis's career got put on hold for 3 years just because some stupid people couldn't see that. And I'm worried now that he's going to go to this team that kind of sucks, or maybe, I don't know, I'm assuming they're not going to be very good. And anytime a team isn't good, a quarterback's going to get it, especially if he's, to be fair to the potential critics, if Willis is playing poorly, it would unfortunately be an all too foreseeable reason why the offense might struggle for Miami this year. I would love for that to not be the case, though. I don't know how good Willis is, and I worry that he might not have a lot of help there. I don't know anything about their offensive coordinator. It's like LaFleur's
Wait,
street something. Sorry,
Arizona or Miami's?
Miami.
Isn't it the guy from Houston from a couple years ago?
Slowick? Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
funny. I mean, I hope so. Like Slowick, another guy who got a raw deal, a potential next Joe Brady or something like that, in my opinion. So yeah, I would love it to work out for Willis, especially in fantasy, but also in real life. The aggressive case for Willis is that, particularly given how much of how great of a runner he is, he could be good in fantasy even if he is bad in real life and the Dolphins are otherwise having a miserable season. Willis could be really useful even so, and I'd like to hold out a little bit of a hope that maybe he's pretty good. Maybe it'll actually just kind of work. Obviously, he played well the spot starts for Green Bay, and I don't know, maybe he's just pretty good now and able to take this job and run with it. I hope so.
And looking a little bit further down when it comes to Willis, like there's really only one, that guy's starting as far as their receiving core goes. Like, you got Jalen Waddle, of course. I don't think any other of their receivers are like even routinely getting drafted in these best ball contests right now. I mean, I suppose some people are mixing in some Malik Washington. I don't know how into that I am. Do you think that Miami spends a reasonably, say day 2 draft pick on a receiver?
Well, I guess it's worth mentioning they re-signed Greg Dulcich, who was fairly productive last year in the last 6 weeks or something like that.
True.
So maybe he can be part of the answer. If I was the Dolphins, I would try to build a 2 tight end base offense for Willis, both to clear out some of the field for him, make the defense bigger so that you can leverage space more easily, and to give ongoing, crucial support to the run game in general. Because we gotta leverage the run game, both because it's our strength and it's because it's how we buy, margin of air. It buys us a breathing room for Willis as a passer, because that's where we expect we're going to need a little help. And right now, they have Dulcich and Ben Sims. Ben Sims was a blocking specialist for the Packers a couple of years before they got John Fitzpatrick to play that role last year. So maybe they see that kind of vision. I just don't want to see Malik Washington on the field, man. And not outside of hurry up situations anyway. I hate this whole just slot fraud thing that teams indulge sometimes. It's we're just throwing him so many screens in the slot. Maybe it'll eventually work. This is a McDaniel offense. I got to blame Mike McDaniel for that one. I would have told him, Mike, this isn't going to work. But 46 catches for 317 yards on 65 targets. That makes me almost throw up. So I want that off the field. That's not going to help Willis. That's going to make it 10 on 11. We need to make it 11 on 11. So if I was the Dolphins, I'd try to go get a tight end. They should have signed Charlie Kohler. Everybody should have signed Charlie. The Ravens should have signed Charlie Kohler.
Yep.
So I don't know what tight end would be a candidate at this point, but if you get a true inline tight end to take the rep next to the tackle so that Dulcich can be a big slot tight end tweener, that would be the ideal, I think. I don't really know how they're going to go about that. At the very least, I think the Dolphins need to make a plan, a budget for an offense that presumes very little wide receiver contributions. Jalen Waddle's the man, but if they're putting Taj Washingtons and Theo Weeses on the field this year, that's sabotaging Malik Willis, and it would be a sin.
So get one of these dang receivers in the draft. Go get I don't know, maybe a tall guy,
Freiermuth or something, or Jonnu Smith. I guess
Smith's available.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I guess. But then the only problem with that is Jonnu Smith would be the rightful slot receiver, because Jonnu Smith has been conspired against more than any NFL player other than Chris Rodriguez.
Yes. Let's see. I don't think there's any other. I mean, we can talk about Kyler next week. Talk to me about some of these receivers that got signed. Alec Pierce going back, Romeo Dobbs going to the Patriots. Anything that really stuck out to you? Wandale,
Certainly,
to Titans.
Yeah, certainly the Pierce, the whole scenario of it caught me a little bit off guard. I was a little surprised at how much money it was, and I was surprised too that Indianapolis basically cleared the field for him by trading Pittman. I don't think Chris Ballard is a very good GM, so to me, this all kind of makes sense in that certain way that if this fails, I think the math was laying there ahead of time to foresee it. And I don't like that to sort of justify the Pierce contract, they had to get rid of a good player from their offense. I feel like that's always a sort of risky logic to entertain if you're trying to improve a team. So with that said, Pierce can definitely do more than he did to this point for the Colts in terms of target count. And he can, of course, do things that Pittman cannot, that very few receivers in general can do as a downfield threat. So I'm certainly not against the idea of giving Pierce more targets, but if he needs to, instead of whatever it was, 16% of the targets last year, if he's going to get 28 this year and have the same catch rate that he has to this point, that's a lot of punting.
It's so many 3 and outs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of punting. You don't want to put 140 targets on just any receiver, even if they're averaging like 12 yards a target or whatever on 80 targets. You only want to go over, I don't know where the number is exactly or what the percentage of team pass attempts, whatever it would be, but there's a certain percentage of targets that you don't want to put on a player if they can't exceed a certain catch rate figure. And if Alec Pierce can't be at least a 64% catch rate guy after more so being a 52% type his whole career, again, that's a lot of punting. That's a lot of leaving Daniel Jones in 3rd and long. Coming off of an Achilles tear, So I don't think Chris Ballard is a very good GM, and I think he's kind of scrambling at this. I think he's desperate. I think he's been desperate for years, actually. I doubt it's going to losing Braden Smith at right tackle. There's a lot of concerns I have about that team.
Yeah, no, I
in fantasy I don't know what to
like
do with it because he's gonna get the targets. They're paying him too much not to, but I think we need to prepare for Alec Pierce drawing like 140 targets and catching only 75 of them for something. It'll still be good in fantasy, I guess. It's like 1,200 yards maybe, so it's definitely not bad. Where did he go in this one actually?
He went in the mid 7th, so like his ADP hasn't really changed at all. Okay,
I'd probably take Pierce. I guess that 6th, 7th round. It's beginning in the 5th. Actually, I would say maybe even the 4th. I don't know. There's a big group of receivers that I have trouble separating from each other. I don't know where that tier before these guys falls off. It might be way back in the early 3rd round or something like that. So maybe this is a part of the wide receiver ADP where you sort of just have to plan on taking multiple of them, because as much as it might seem like a bad value to take the player in the second, if a player goes in the 4th round that you have basically the same projection as a guy in the 6th, you might not be saving enough by waiting to make it worth taking only one of the two. It might be just better to say, like, I'll just take both, And if Pierce, if you take DJ Moore in the 5th and Alec Pierce in the 6th, for instance, I think that makes a lot of sense, even if you're kind of remaining agnostic on which one has the higher projection.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to draw it up. Like there's going to be some right picks in that tier. It's hard to, like, when you just isolate things to these guys, like who is the best pick. I've been drafting probably too much Parker Washington, but
me too.
I mean, what do you want me to do?
He's good, man. He's really good.
He's good. I'm under the assumption that Brian Thomas is going to be gone and Travis Hunter will catch 3 passes. So, Jacoby Myers.
I don't think Thomas will be gone, but I just think Thomas as an outside downfield specialist, Washington is the guy who cuts up the middle of the field. it's a coherent. Jacoby Myers doing a little bit too, but yeah, I think Thomas can buy room for those two, and of course Chris Rodriguez running for upwards of 1,700 yards. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, keeping the defense honest that way. Yeah, it's going to be gnarly. Let's see. Romeo Doubs going to New England.
Right. With Diggs subtracted, that's a good number of targets up for grabs. I guess the only thing there is if A.J. Brown gets traded eventually, despite there being no indications of that occurring right now, and if it were occurring, there's no direct links to any particular team right now. From where we are, with a little bit we can know, the Patriots, I think, would still be one of the top candidates. It's like the Chargers and the Patriots, maybe the Chiefs, I guess, are the teams we're probably thinking. I probably forgot somebody, but
should go back to Buffalo.
I don't want them in Buffalo. Sorry,
they don't want him.
Yeah, I think Doubs is a good player. I think he can do more than he was given the chance to do in Green Bay, but I don't have much hope for upside with him, really. I definitely think Doubs is more steady than explosive, and as much as he's a prototypical X receiver, the boundary receiver who's on the line of scrimmage and deals with the press directly, it's not because he's a star level one. It's like he's just he's totally solid at that as far as it goes, but he's not Mike Evans. He's a guy who will give you a totally decent starting production, but not star level. So as much as it's a good signing for the Patriots, as much as I like Doubs, I don't know if he's able to tap into that really rapid per snap target rate that Diggs had last year. I think even if the Patriots don't trade for A.J. Brown or make another notable addition at receiver, it might be a little bit more of a committee than people expect. Because Butte and Hollins, I assume, are not going to just disappear. Kyle Williams, he showed something last year. Efton Chisholm,
and they just drafted
Mario Douglas. So yeah, I think Doubs doesn't have as much upside as Pierce, in the sense that you're never going to see Doubs, or not often anyway, will you see Doubs turn 8 targets into 160 yards. But he should be more consistent than Pierce, I guess, or he'll have a higher catch rate than Pierce, and maybe have less standard deviation from week to week or something like that. As far as where to draft Doubs, I have trouble thinking through his part of the ADP as well, but I would draw a line at that group of players like Jalen Coker, Jaden Higgins, which in your draft, John, Doubs went after Coker, but 1 pick before Higgins. I guess I think that's where he should keep going. I wouldn't hate it if somebody took Doubs in the 9th or the 10th. I'd rather have Doubs than Xavier Worthy, for instance. Xavier Worthy went in the 9th round of this draft. But I wouldn't want to go crazy with Doubs exposure. I'd probably try to keep it around like 18% or something like that, and view him more probably as a glue guy than a team maker.
Yeah, he's someone that like, is going to raise the floor of your weekly receiver output. But he's not going to have you're not counting on him for the spike weeks necessarily. Although, I think that there is something to be said for, getting a guy that's attached to Drake May, probably a good thing.
And Doubs is good.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we're not looking at the same 100 zillion targets the way that you are with Pierce. I think that a more 115, 120 with a bit better catch rate, maybe not as explosive as Pierce. I think that's a reasonable way to look at it for sure when it comes to Doubs. And Drake May, I think one of the most accurate downfield passers in the game last year. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think he'll continue to do that.
But I do like Wan'Dale a little bit too. I just think he was so awesome at Nebraska and Kentucky, so it's easy for me to look at those first 3 years, especially with an ACL tear thrown in and all the dysfunction of the Giants offense. I can easily convince myself that Wan'Dale of 2025 is the real Wan'Dale, and he's going to draw targets. He's always done that. Cam Ward could certainly use him. To this point, I'm still a Brian Dable apologist. I'm getting a little bit creeped out by the whole cronyism thing. I don't really like to see
It's
guys.
so widespread this year. It seems like
Harbaugh's are doing it too much.
Good Lord.
Jim, I have expectations for. John, I don't. John can, I expect him to do stupid things. But Jim Harbaugh just kind of like signing all the Ravens guys. You're supposed to do the Michigan bit. Now it's true cronyism. It's not even just your boys. It's your bros boys. That's just that's like a conspiracy or something.
I know.
So yeah. Anyway, I hope Jim gets. I'd like to see the Chargers do well. I like those guys, but I think it's concerning when you see it to the degree that they've done it. I'm just hoping that in Wandale's case, that it was a case where the cronyism and the merit intersected, and it kind of is the best of both, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans just have so much work to do, I suppose, in that group of pass catchers. I could definitely see them, adding a receiver in the draft. I don't know if they'll take one at 4.
Oh, hey, John, one more.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Naylor in the 16th. Good pick.
Hey, I did like that.
More expensive now.
Yeah, no, I think he's always been one of those guys at Minnesota where it's like anytime they throw him the ball, he looks really good. It's just there wasn't like that much opportunity when you have Justin Jefferson and Addison.
He was hurt all the time
Hawkinson.
at Michigan State, but he was really productive when he played.
So I think, we have reason to believe that Vegas isn't completely dead.
I like the chances. Now. I mean, Kubiak, it doesn't guarantee he'll be a good head coach, that he was such a good offensive coordinator, but he was close to infallible as an offensive coordinator, in my opinion. And they've already beefed up the offensive line. Mendoza, I think, looks like the real deal. I think they take off immediately.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a team that challenges for like 7 or 8 wins this year. Pretty,
and more importantly, scores some points.
Dude, they were so abysmal to watch last year. I was not having fun anytime that you get into that like afternoon window. There's only like 2 other games on, and then one of them is the Raiders is involved, and it's okay. Now I'm a captive audience to watch the dang Eagles play the.
I have to watch Alex Kappa just play Matador in front of Ashton Genty 35 times.
That was Clockwork Orange type scenes. But that's going to do it for us on this edition. I think next week we'll do maybe a little inverse of this exercise. Some guys that are either improving their stock or their stock is hurt by all the free agent action. I definitely am going to want to get your thoughts on like my guy Shamir DK with the Wan'Dale Robinson signing. I need you to talk me off the ledge there. Handful of other guys that
we'll get it done.
Yeah, we're gonna go deep.
Don't jump off that ledge.
We're gonna be just fine. That's gonna do it for us here. Big thanks to our friends over at DraftKings. And if you aren't already signed up over at RotoWire, it's a really good time to do it. It's a peak fantasy baseball draft season. You're probably in the playoff push of your fantasy basketball leagues. We got pretty crazy bracketology too with March Madness coming up. I think Selection Sunday is this coming week. So our bracketologists are in the lab as we speak. And of course, Mario and I and the rest of our NFL staff is keeping busy during the off season. So go ahead and go to rotowire.com, use that code YouTube15. I just went ahead and covered that up. That was genius. YouTube15, use it, 15% off any subscription. You will be happy that you did it. But that's going to do it for us here on this edition. For Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.